The interesting thing in Ukraine is that the Russian military attack, together with the hybrid war, the propaganda attack, the cyber war, has really moved Ukraine closer to Europe, closer to the West. The polls are showing it. The people of Ukraine feel that is where their future is as more and more aggression comes out of Russia. When I was in Poland 4 weeks ago, one of the leaders there said something I'd like you to comment on. He said, "We're watching you in the United States." He said, "We want to see how you react to the invasion of Vladimir Putin in your presidential election, because it's a signal to us of how you would react if our country was invaded by Putin."
I couldn't disagree. I mean, I would say that's, I think, how lots of people, lots of countries that have felt under threat sort of subliminally feel. They may not always say it, but certainly I think that's a common feeling.
You made another point which I'd like to ask the other panelists to refer to, and that is the asymmetrical aspect of this. The president of Lithuania, Grybauskaitė, closed down RT and Sputnik for a period of months because of the outrageous fake news they were peddling into her country. So it's a challenge to those who are dedicated to freedom of expression, speech and press, as to whether there would be some government action to stop what Putin is trying to achieve through the most obvious source, through RT. I'd like to know what the panelists think about that.
If I may, just yesterday, the German government submitted a bill that would lead up to fines of 50 million euros or $53 million for social media spreading fake news. I mean, this is going to be a tough one, between the Scylla and Charybdis of security and our fundamental values of freedom of the press, and how we navigate this is going to be a tough one in a lot of countries.
I'd like the other panelists, if they'd like to respond to that.
Just very briefly, in some ways, Russian tactics are designed to be what we call below threshold. They are designed not to cause NATO to respond in a fulsome way. It's designed to isolate a country, make them feel that they are alone, that this is something that they have to deal with bilaterally with Russia. And so the more that we can enhance our own understanding and awareness of what's going on within Europe, within the NATO countries, that helps us understand these tactics. And I find our own knowledge about Europe and European political dynamics and our own strength of purpose with our allies. Congressional visits like yours are so important. We have to return to Europe much more fully as a foreign and security policy matter. On media, I would just briefly say, in some ways, it's a multi-vector issue. You have fake or false news, which are just blatantly wrong stories that are designed to put pressure on the government, create hysteria. There's the leaks of embarrassing information, which is designed to discredit government officials and institutions. The more you discredit leaders and institutions, the more false news is so powerful, because you don't know what to believe. And third, something that President Ilves touched on, ownership of the media. The Baltic media market, I would argue the Central European media market, is increasingly becoming Russian-owned, which makes it more sympathetic to Russia's worldview and interest. And so we have to be very mindful. It gets back to beneficial ownership. Who is owning these media companies and the messages that they're sending?
And I am noticing in some countries, I can name a couple, where Russian oligarchs are moving back into these countries and becoming major political players. I don't want to be conspiratorial here, but I think I will be. I wonder what's happening here with this kind of export of wealth and taking over of political operations in some of these countries. We're seeing more and more of that too. Others like to comment on the asymmetrical issue? Or
Senator, one point I would make that I think furthers what Ms. Conley said is the degree to which these influence operations are enabled by computer network exploitation, by hacking.